Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episodes of us talking about movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Media Boat Podcast. It is episode 412. Today is December the 5th, 2023. And hey, yeah, we're here to give you all of the above, all the things that he just told you, to prepare you for the winter ahead.
Yes, we are in December, so that does mean that end of the year lists are coming out. And hey,
yes,
that does mean end of the year podcast episodes are coming out. Well, not coming out. They came out already, as the first episode of the end of the year wrap up is already up.
Yes, if you check your podcast feed, if you are a podcast subscriber to us, you will notice that the first episode of our year-end wrap-up for 2023 is up. We started with music. From here on out, the next 3 Sundays, we will have special episodes. 4 Sundays, we will have special episodes for you to continue that wrap-up, including ones for video games, television, movies, and a final episode that looks into our crystal ball as we think about 2024. So expect all that in your podcast feed and also on YouTube in video form for the first time ever.
Yep. All those episodes will be going up at noon Pacific time on the West Coast. Yes. So 3 o'clock Eastern. Did the math for you guys there. Didn't have to do that yourself. So you'll get all those on Sunday, but this isn't Sunday. This is our regular ass scheduled episode.
Indeed.
So let's get right into it. And we start with the music section. Start the music section with the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And start the Hot 100 actually being a cold 100 because it is now December, which means get cozy up because the Christmas songs have officially arrived.
They're here, folks.
At number 1, everyone, no matter who you are, young or old, continues to start and be, for the rest of this month, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee.
Important note. This is the first time that Rocking Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee has been a number 1 on the Billboard 100, which means it is now the new record holder for the longest time since release that a song has taken to be a number 1 hit. And it didn't just beat that record, it shattered that record.
Well, yeah, because I believe we talked about this last year where it was Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You with the longest running drought to reach number 1, which that is now your number 2 song of the week.
That's like a 30-year difference between the two of those songs, just for reference. So gives you an idea of how long this road has been. So,
man, does that mean everyone's cooling off of Mariah Carey this year?
I mean, it is number 2 on this list, so maybe not as much.
No, yes. At number 2, All I Want for Christmas Is You, the Mariah Carey version without Justin Bieber. Coming in at 3, and the only non-Christmas one here, although it might be Christmas, depending on who you ask, Lovin' on Me by Jack Harlow. Coming in at 4, Jingle Bell Rock by Bobby Helms. And rounding out your top 5, Last Christmas by Wham.
One more try on that.
Wham.
No, it's not their name.
Wham.
Yeah.
Wah, 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 wah. By Wham. It's Last Christmas.
Wham. Yes.
The song, not the movie.
I mean, is that song in the movie?
That song, the movie is based on this song.
See, then there you go.
Wait, have you not seen it?
No.
Oh, add it to your Christmas watch list. It's very mediocre.
Sold. Thank you for that recommendation. All right, let's move on to the 200.
As for your Billboard 200, your albums chart, it's Taylor Swift season.
It seriously is, and I have no idea why.
So at number 1, we have 1989, Taylor's version by Taylor Swift. At 2, we have For All the Dogs by Drake. Coming at 3, Midnights by Taylor Swift. At 4, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen. But rounding out your top 5 is Folklore by Taylor Swift. So 3 out of the top 5 slots for Taylor Swift.
What is your theory about why this happened? Why do you think all of a sudden streaming numbers went up for 2 other Taylor albums besides 1989 Taylor's version?
I mean, obviously because everyone listened to us talk about Taylor Swift on Sunday.
But I will tell you my theory, which is that it just so happened that this coincides with Spotify Wrapped season, which happened last week during this. Probably a lot of people got in their results, your number 1 artist of 2023 was Taylor Swift. Here's a playlist of the stuff you listened to this year. And voila, it's just a bunch of Taylor Swift. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And yeah, that's my guess. But I actually don't know. There could be some other reason buried in here.
I mean, that would make sense for Midnights and probably Folklore. But 1989 Taylor's version is the new album, so that makes sense.
So that was going to be your number 1 regardless, because For All the Dogs wasn't going to hold on. But yes, interesting nonetheless.
But yeah, 3 out of the top 5. You know she's going for 5 out of 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, it might happen. She still has time. Speaking of Spotify Wrapped, but before we get there, I was jumping the gun on that segue.
Yes, if you didn't enjoy your Spotify Wrapped, we have new releases.
There we go.
Including Rat Wars by Health. All caps, yelling everywhere.
Yes.
We also have The Love Reinvention by Alison Goldfrapp. The Beautiful Dark of Life by Atreyu. Yes, that Atreyu. And no, not that Atreyu.
Good to know.
Before and After by Neil Young. Yes, old Neil Young.
Not young Neil.
Yes.
But Neil Young.
2 different people.
Christy, by the way, did not realize that was a Neil Young joke until I explained it to her after we watched Takes Off. She was like, oh, like, yeah, that's why he's called Young Neil. And she's like, okay.
Because there is no other character named Neil in there. So I was like, yeah. Right, we also have Pink Friday 2 by Nicki Minaj. So if you didn't listen to Pink Friday, now's your chance to get ready for the sequel.
Go catch up.
And lastly, Think Later by Tate McRae.
Yes, recent Saturday Night Live musical guest, Tate McRae.
So, as you mentioned, as you're trying to get to, everyone was doing their Spotify Unwrapped. Unfortunately, some people unwrapped a pink slip, as Spotify is laying off 17% of its global workforce in order to cut costs. CEO Daniel Ek said on Monday.
Just real quick, I don't think we've had a CEO last name that is as good in a while as Daniel Ek, because Ek is the kind of the sound that like it comes up in my throat whenever I think about Spotify and how they do their business. It's just Ek. Ugh.
Ek.
Yeah. Well, anyways,
Ek made the announcement in an internal memo sent to staff, which the company then posted on its website. Quote, in my CEO voice, I recognize this will impact a number of individuals who have made valuable contributions. To be blunt, many smart, talented, and hardworking people will be departing us. Close quote. Spotify currently employs over 9,000 people globally, meaning...
Wait, over 9,000?
Yes. Employs over 9,000 people globally, meaning the layoffs will eliminate around 1,500 workers. Though the music streamer has accomplished steady subscriber growth, boasting 220 million paying subscribers, it has continued to struggle to become profitable. Because of those 220 million paying subscribers, paying $17 a month, there's no way they're making $1 billion every month, right? Does that math not check out?
So here's the
math
thing.
here.
I mean, there's an easy answer and there's a real answer. The easy answer is, well, no, that's not how any business works. You can't just say, oh, net proceeds from subscription costs go, and that's how much money they make. Obviously,
Yes.
there are operating costs, there's payroll.
Yes, net versus gross.
That's the easy answer, and that's what Spotify wants you to believe, which is like, oh, well, certainly it must be just expensive to run a company like Spotify. The real answer is they must be mismanaging their money, because you think about it, like, where is it all going then? Because, and it can't all be payroll. Are they?
It can't all be artists, as Weird Al Yankovic pointed out this past weekend.
Right. Yes. So great. What a move for him. And like, yeah, it's just, and then you have this coincides with other stories about like, oh, they're dropping podcasts that they spent $1 billion on to get celebrity names attached to their podcast service. They're also cutting, as we reported, the revenue share for the songs that are under 1,000 streams. So they're doing all this cost cutting all at once when they're more successful than they've ever been. When we just had a Spotify Wrapped week where everybody was giving them free advertising, as they do every year, and not even considering at what cost. And this is immediately what they do. They toss all that goodwill in the trash because they know nobody who's doing that is paying attention to these stories, because they can operate on those two levels, be this awful company to work for and do business with, but also have fun sharing their gifts with each other. And oh, look, it says that I have the same taste as someone in Burlington, Vermont. Yeah, fun. But like, the fun, is it worth stories like this that happen immediately after the fun is over? Spotify is forever going to just be this dichotomy of, yeah, it's how we all listen to music, and also it's why the music industry is slowly getting dismantled.
All right, everyone back to iTunes or Apple Music or Napster.
Fun, actually, side story to this. Christy and I found somebody had uploaded the 2002 Grammys onto YouTube, and we were watching a 2002 Grammy telecast. And there's this whole bit that the then CEO of the recording industry, or the RIAA, they goes up and does their little speech. Well, he dedicated his entire speech to the terrifying future of illegally downloaded music. And it felt so quaint, because he goes on all about like, yeah, this is destroying the industry as we know it. Every time these people like download up to 6,000 illegal songs every day, like it's like taking away like real money from our artists. Like the entire argument was based on our artists are losing money from this. Fast forward to now, and then you have the industry itself supporting a system that keeps artists from being paid in a very similar way. The only difference is you don't have the president go up there during this year's Grammys and saying this is a problem, because it's not a problem for the industry, because the labels are in on it this time and they're making money from it.
It's not a problem for the people at the top, so they're not going to make it a problem for everyone else.
Exactly. So it's like, this is what we're talking about when we talk about this stuff. It's like Spotify, we celebrate Spotify for a week, and then the very next week, they lay off 1,500 people. 1,500 people. It makes me angry in so many ways. And yeah, I'm just tired of them. Anyways, so enjoy your Wrapped, I guess. Hope you had fun.
Enjoy being unwrapped, because it may be the last one you get.
No, they'll probably keep going, because nothing's stopping the Spotify train. Because as long as the industry is on board, as long as the labels play ball, this will never stop. And they'll keep trying to reformulate it to be profitable, which in 2023, what that means, I'm not sure anymore. And yeah, we're just going to continue riding this treadmill. And the people, like I said last week on the podcast, on our wrap-up episode for music, it's just a model that's just going to continue screwing over artists that are new and trying to get started. It's the way it is.
We'll talk about something a bit later about how production companies trying to help artists and creatives.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
We'll get there.
We'll
but
get there.
before we get to that story, we got to talk about funny enough, Grammy Award winning darling.
Yes.
Billie Eilish, as she shared some news over the past weekend, kind of unintentionally.
Yeah. We'll talk about the controversies around this after you read the story, but yes.
Yeah. So on Saturday, Billie Eilish confirmed that she recently came out in her Variety Power of Women cover story, in which she first revealed her attraction to women. The Grammy-winning superstar walked the red carpet at Variety's Hitmakers event, where she revealed she didn't intend to make a grand gesture of coming out.
I just want to tell people why I laughed. You skipped over some Variety bragging.
Yes.
That I had copied and pasted there.
I noticed it. That's why I paused. So where she revealed that she didn't intend to make a grand gesture of coming out. Quote to quote Billie Eilish, "No, I didn't. But I kind of thought, well, wasn't it obvious? I didn't realize people didn't know. I just don't really believe in it. I'm just like, why can't we just exist? I've been doing this for a long time, and I just didn't talk about it. Whoops." But I saw the article, and I was like, oh, I guess I came out today. Okay, cool. It's exciting to me because I guess people didn't know, but it's cool that they know. I am for the girls. End quote Billie Eilish. And also, yes. Me too. I'm also for the girls.
Yes, we can say the Media Boat Podcast, very pro-girl. But basically, so after this came out, there's been a little bit of social media discussion talking about whether or not Variety accidentally, by running this story before Billie could make the statement herself, was outed. That's right. Basically the term a lot of people are discussing, whether this counts as Variety outing someone who wasn't intending on coming out. So,
well, I don't think it's them outing her. I think it's just them using her direct quote, though, in the interview.
And that's
part people took it as, oh, she's coming out.
That's part of the discussion. And so Billie would eventually write a Instagram caption, which she said, hey, it wasn't exactly cool that Variety did this. And a lot of people took that and ran with it. And I mean ran with it because, as you know, everything is very polarized on the internet. There's no nuanced takes. It's either you are on this far extreme or you're on this far extreme. And in this case, the conversation had two poles, which was either Variety should not have ran the story without consulting her about it, like made sure that she was okay with the language used in the article and that she had like first say on it. So that means that Variety outed her and we should not be outing people who are not saying it themselves. On the other side, you have, well, let's talk about what the definition of outing is, because I think you guys are using it too loosely. They just, as you just said, quoted her and ran the story as was. So
right, and I'm sure they sent it to Billie Eilish and her publicist to review before, because it's a cover story.
Yeah,
like she's the cover artist, she's getting all the attention, and so you would assume that Variety would make sure, like, hey, we're gonna run this. Is this what you want? Anything you want to change?
Yeah. So where the nuance is, and where kind of between those polar opposite takes lies, is I think mostly the truth, which is, even if her people may have been consulted about the story, there's a possibility that maybe Billie didn't see exactly how it was going to be run. And so that could explain why, according to the Instagram caption, she felt caught off guard by it. 2, in the quote, she says that she didn't really label it, is kind of what it sounds like. She didn't necessarily come out at any point because she didn't feel like she had to. She didn't feel like that was something she needed to do. She just wanted to live a life in which she was able to express her sexuality in the way that she wanted to without it being a topic of conversation, which is a very Zoomer progressive kind of way of thinking about how we address a human sexuality. I feel like they're in the older kind of model from our generation going back. It was kind of like you did have to come out. You had to have a conversation about it because it was seen as an othering almost. It was seen as a outside of the norm thing that you had to explain to friends and family members because maybe they wouldn't understand it. I think this newer generation, which Billie speaks to, I think, in this by saying that this way, is just assuming, well, no, I'm just gonna like who I like, and what's the problem there? Why does there have to be another layer? Why do I have to explain myself? And that's essentially how she sounds here. She feels like she doesn't have to explain it.
Well, not just that. It feels like she doesn't need to make a big deal about it. We actually talked about it on this podcast a couple of years ago when JoJo Siwa made a big deal about coming out, and people were all like supporting it.
Yeah.
And then Billie Eilish comes out, like essentially like doesn't make a big deal about it.
Right.
And people want it to be a big deal because she is a big artist, a Grammy-winning artist.
And I can understand, yeah. This could just be a generational divide. This could just be older millennials or, people even older than that are frustrated with the fact that she's not like going into this with a big, like, I am proud of this, just because of all that, that feeling of that, like the community worked really hard to get to where they are. And again, I'm obviously not a member of this community, so I can't really speak for them, but that's the vibe I get, that there is a certain earned, pride is the word on purpose, it's about that hard work that got to this point where it is accepted. Whereas I think the younger generation is just like, yeah, I like girls and guys. What's the problem? Like, they just do not understand. They don't have the context because it just seems so normal. It's like the air they breathe now. And honestly, that's probably how it should be. But where we get that nuance is because of this crossing over of these generations, and we're still kind of getting used to how the next generation is going to treat these kind of events. So on the record, no, I do not think that Variety outed Billie Eilish, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that Billie shouldn't have had at least some sort of more control over the message. I think both of those things can be true, and the nuance and context is important, internet people.
Anyways, congratulations, Billie Eilish. You made it complicated for older people.
Well, she didn't make anything complicated, but yes.
You're right. Avril Lavigne is the one who makes it complicated.
Yeah,
why?
Right.
Why? Why does she have to go and make things complicated?
Well, no, I think she was saying that to somebody else.
Oh,
to be fair. Anyway.
Anyways, did you listen to anything besides your Unwrapped playlists?
I was just more well, first of all, I don't have it Unwrapped because I don't have a Spotify, and then also
take that.
But yeah, it was mostly just kind of wrap up as I was doing my year-end list, just wrapping up my thoughts about like those songs, and so listening to a lot of songs from earlier in the year.
Yep. And if you want to listen to our top albums of the year as we discuss it, you can do so on our end of the year wrap-up review for music, currently available now.
Indeed.
So with music done and out of the way, not to just like push it off to the side, but to move on with the episode, let's get right into video games. And we start with new releases, including Final Fantasy VII, Ever Crisis for the PC.
Yes, this is also a mobile game, I believe, and this is a PC version of the mobile game. I could be wrong. This is on some other platform.
This isn't the mobile game that's a like PvP shooter, right?
Oh, is it?
It might be, because that where everyone's
says it's a
soldier
mobile
and
game.
soldier. Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah, it's a mobile game that is now coming to PC. No, it looks like an RPG.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's an RPG set in the Final Fantasy VII universe that was already released on mobile. It is now getting a PC release. There you go.
Too many versions of Final Fantasy VII out there.
Seriously.
All right. We also have Small Land: Survive the Wilds for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X.
Mhm.
Warhammer 40,000: Rogue Trader for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. But everyone get out of the way. Your big release is Avatar. Not that Avatar. This is Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. The one that the game that's had the big push in the last 2 weeks of advertising.
Yes, this is Ubisoft's new Avatar game that is an open world, Far Cry-esque kind of open world game, but again, in the Avatar universe and in third person, not first. So
I believe this is technically a prequel to the movies themselves.
I believe so, yes.
All right. Speaking of Avatar and all those special digital effects, think WETA is one of those companies that definitely worked on Avatar. Yes. But we're not talking about that WETA.
No.
That is WETA FX. This story is about WETA Digital, the part that was sold to Unity. Well, is where it is and shall ever be, because Unity has announced that it's to close WETA Digital, the VFX software company that's connected to Peter Jackson's New Zealand-based WETA FX. In a statement to FX Guide, WETA wrote, quote, "Unity believes the WETA Digital team are remarkable, but Unity needs to become leaner as it focuses its expertise on its core business." The statement says, close quote, explaining why this decision was made. As I mentioned, Unity originally made its deal to create WETA Digital in November of 2021, 2 years ago. Oh my gosh, these poor people. With Peter Jackson selling the company's visual effects tools for a then reported $1.6 billion. Jackson's main visual effects company, which continued as WETA FX, and worked on Avatar: The Way of Water, says that business is unaffected by WETA Digital's closure.
So yes, as the story says, this is the software tools division of WETA that was sold to Unity, which makes sense because Unity is a software tools company. That's what's being shut down here. I imagine before this that there was probably some sort of share of technology between Unity's main teams. So I'm sure that some of that stuff that they worked on will remain in the Unity company. It's just that that division is getting shuttered and a lot of those people probably did lose their jobs. So it's unfortunate in that way that yes, in just 2 short years, this complete Unity, it just wants to wipe their hands clean of this.
It's weird that they want to wipe their hands clean of a $1.6 billion purchase just 2 years after buying it.
I mean,
but again, we have seen the implosion of Unity over the past year.
It really just goes to show you how quickly Unity needs to make up debt, which I imagine was why they're doing this. Because that's what all these companies are apparently doing, which is, hey, we ran up all this debt. The interest rates are so high right now. We need to get money now as opposed to later so we can pay off all that debt. So I wouldn't be surprised if Unity is doing
I know someone who is willing to give money if you need it now. It's my money and I need it now.
You're talking about much lower stake situations than billions of dollars, but sure, they can try to give them a call if they want.
Yes, I'm sure JG Wentworth will answer that call.
They need a structured settlement, apparently.
Yes, anyways. WETA FX will continue, which is why I thought was closing, but no, this is just WETA Digital,
the software tools division. So yes,
didn't we have high hopes when they bought them?
I mean, high hopes with Unity in general. We're the norm back then because everybody loved Unity in 2021. Now, not so much. Anyways.
Now Unity is broken and not really united front anymore.
Yes, yeah. Unity is an ironic name now.
Yes. All right. If you're wondering why that was our main story, that's because the actual main story is wrapped up in the bits.
Yes, there was so much stuff.
The bits.
You cursed me. You cursed me in a way because I could have only had 2 stories, but because you already had one that you forced upon me, I had to bundle up some bits because I was like, well, I can't do 3 stories, so I have to do the rest of this.
Well, yes, because you put your bits in here.
Yes. So many bits.
Yes, so many bits, but all of them trumped by the big bit, which is GTA Trilogy coming to Netflix on mobile.
But yes, that is happening, but that's not the big GTA news.
Oh, don't worry, we'll get there.
Yes.
We also have Xbox, which is in discussions to launch a mobile store.
This is, of course, following the purchase of Activision Blizzard. Oh, and King, the mobile company. This makes sense. This puts their foot firmly in the mobile door.
Is it too early to pick up the phone yet on that?
I mean, yeah, we called this. We knew that this was going to happen as soon as they could start doing it.
Yep. Speaking of Xbox, they have reiterated that they want to bring Game Pass to PlayStation and Nintendo platforms.
Yes, this was, I believe the line was, they want anybody with a screen to be able to play Xbox Game Pass. That's kind of where they've always been wanting it to go. It's just a matter of whether Sony or Nintendo wants to play ball with that idea, which seems like if they wanted to, it would have happened by now.
Also, if they wanted to, Nintendo would have to beef up its console by now.
Well, no, because remember,
you're talking about cloud
gaming is always an option. They always have that in their back pocket. So in case they don't want to make a deal to allow you to download Microsoft's own games, which I'm sure is the sticking point here, they will then say, well, what about cloud streaming? And then you could do that on a Switch right now if you wanted.
Yes, but we all know how cloud streaming works on a Switch, though. It's not the best.
Yeah. Well, then in this case, Microsoft would be running the servers, so you would think that would be better, but who knows?
Well, the last bit of bits for Xbox news, Phil Spencer is telling fans that he hears you. He's just not going to acknowledge you in regards to a new Banjo-Kazooie game.
Yeah, this has been a long desired thing from the super hardcore Rare fans who want a proper 3rd game in the Banjo-Kazooie series. No, they don't think nuts and bolts counts. And so, yeah, in the lead up days to the Game Awards, which are Thursday night as of this recording, there's a lot of misguided, in my opinion, hope that one of Xbox's big announcements at the show is something Banjo related. However, just to remind everybody who's thinking that way, Rare still hasn't said anything about Everwild, the game that they announced and showed a trailer for years ago. If we're going to have any Rare news, hopefully it'll be about that and not yet another new project that probably won't come out until 2025. Just try to be realistic here. I love Banjo-Kazooie. It's a great game. But there's other things happening right now in Microsoft Game Studios, and it's probably not a priority.
And the last bit of news here are actually 3 different updates to some game favorites, including Baldur's Gate 3 getting its latest update, which adds a new epilogue. So you get a chance to play through it all over again.
Yeah, which is kind of the point of that game. It seems like it's designed for multiple playthroughs. So yeah, have fun.
Yep. We also have Disney Speedstorm, that Disney racing game, adding a new roster of characters just in time for Christmas.
Yes.
And you're right if you're thinking it's definitely Frozen characters.
I added this just for you because I wanted to let you know, in case you didn't know, Frozen characters are coming.
Oh, I know. I've jumped right back into it, and it's back on my daily play because Frozen characters are amazing.
There you go.
And then we also have Nintendo, not to be outdone, unveiling new Donkey Kong Country expansion for Nintendo World Japan.
Yes, a 70% land expansion. Yes, Think about that for a second. That means 70% more land for Nintendo Land than was already there. That's huge. So a gigantic Donkey Kong Country themed land will be added to Nintendo World, but so far only in the Japanese park. No word on whether Hollywood will be getting this. Hollywood already, because of how cramped the space is there, didn't have room for the Yoshi ride, which was in the original Japanese park. So the fact that they still are behind means that you're not seeing Donkey Kong Land anytime soon unless Universal Hollywood does some major expansion work.
But where? There's no place to put it.
There's really nothing they can do. They're really hamstrung by this.
They do. They put it underneath the park, and you just make it a nighttime jungle themed. or you do like the Vegas does. You just have lights everywhere on at all the time, so you don't actually know what time it is underground. And then when you finally leave Donkey Kong Country, and you're like, "What do you mean it's still light outside?" Or "What do you mean it's dark outside?" How long have I been under the ground?
I think there are reasons why you can't do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways. But we need to get ready and prepare because this week is the Video Game Awards. And that's where big trailers and big announcements will be there. They'll be released. We'll get all brand new gaming content.
Yes.
Unless you're a guy on Twitter who wants to promote Bitcoin.
Yes.
In which case, you can go ahead and leak the GTA 6 trailer, which Rockstar will then say no, and we'll release it ourselves.
So basically, the context here is, like we had reported last week on the show, Rockstar had planned to release the trailer, the first proper trailer for GTA 6 in December. We then found out in between last week's show and now that was going to be scheduled for this morning, December 5th at 6 a.m. Pacific. But last night, you're right, a leaker got the footage, tried to sell Bitcoin off of it, and then Rockstar just decided, well, it's out there. People have already seen it. Might as well just put it out in an official capacity now. So the trailer was up last night. It is up right now if you haven't seen it. It is about 90 seconds long. It has
pre-rendered cutscenes, very clearly pre-rendered cutscenes. I don't want people coming in here thinking that this is actual gameplay.
I'm going to push back on that, because if you look at screenshots of that footage, there are still very clearly in-engine-y looking effects in it, including the hair. If you look at hair on the character models, it's very much dithered like in-engine rendered hair is. Not in a way, it's not perfect like cutscene hair can be now. That's an engine. That's real time.
I'm going to push back because we've seen what Cyberpunk 2077 trailer looked like compared to what actually was released. And yes, I know these are two different companies.
Yes.
But they're also two companies that are more or less beloved by fans.
Well, regardless of whether or not the footage is in-engine or not, it is the first footage we've seen so far of GTA 6, and it looks like a Grand Theft Auto game, except with some minor changes.
You have a female protagonist, playable, first time in the franchise, 3D era.
Yes, I put that on purpose because a lot of people are making that mistake when they do their headlines. The very first Grand Theft Auto for the PC and PlayStation, you could select female protagonists, but the difference was that they were little tiny little 2D sprites in a top-down perspective game. So did you really? Maybe not. But canonically, yes, it's important that we do not leave that game out of the canon. However, in the 3D era, which started with GTA 3 on the PlayStation 2, this is the first time you can control a female character. So that is where this is new. It looks like it could also be a two-character in tandem kind of setup with her and her partner. And I mean that both in partner in crime and romantic partner, judging by some of the scenes in this trailer.
Lots of Bonnie and Clyde vibes going on.
Yes, it's possible that you might be switching between them two, a la GTA 5.
A
Has
la
not been
Spider-Man 2.
yes, but I'm trying to keep it in the
I
franchise we're
know
talking
you
about.
are, but
But
I'm also
anyway,
trying to keep it relevant.
but it does seem like that the female character is in charge. It does seem like she is going to be the focus of the story, which is pretty cool to see. But everything else, though, suggested all the stuff that people want to see from GTA. A huge, sprawling landscape. It's apparently going to be the state of Florida, not just Miami like Vice City before it. This is different areas of Florida kind of concocted together in a GTA summary, like a smaller version, obviously. But yeah, it seems like they've really, in that classic Rockstar attention to detail, they've wrapped up a lot of Floridian things, including gators breaking into convenience stores. It seems like they are having a lot of fun with the setting this time, as they always do.
Yeah, I mean, as of this year, it's been 10 years since GTA 5 came out.
Yes.
They did say, or at least put in the trailer, that GTA 6 won't come out till 2025.
Yes, that's the other side about this announcement, is that we do now know this will not be a 2024 game. So keep on waiting. The other thing we know is it has only been confirmed for PS5 and Xbox Series X. No PC version of this game has been announced yet.
Also, no GTA Online format has been announced or confirmed.
Yes. Yeah, it looks like this is just footage from the single player experience of this game. Yes, no word about whether or not this will build on top of the existing GTA line online that 5 introduced or make a completely new version of GTA Online. We do not know. So yeah.
Yep. But hey, at least we might see actual gameplay at the Game Awards, or at least general gameplay. Because, like you said, this is still 2 years out.
I would bet no. I'd say we don't see anything at the Game Awards. I think Rockstar is treating this like is independent and treating themselves like that, and this will not be at the Game Awards. However, it does say trailer 1. So I imagine as 24 progresses, they will release probably more and more footage of the game, giving us a better idea of what that thing is, but they will control that feed unless, as you say, somebody grabs it and leaks it for Bitcoin.
So that means that Super Bowl
Maybe.
2025, we will get a official release date because all eyes will be on that game.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, that's not a bad theory. Maybe you could be right.
I'm thinking I'm already marketing 2 years in advance here. Okay, pay me my money now, and you can enjoy that later.
All right. Anyways,
do you plan on playing GTA 6?
You know, every time I play a GTA game since 3, I play it for an hour and then I'm like, I'm good. So no, I probably will not play GTA 6.
I don't think I've played a GTA game in full.
Yeah.
I did play 3 for the Xbox. But I don't think I ever finished it.
Well, there you go. It's just not, not for us. That's fine. We got Saints Row instead.
For what it's worth, yes, we did get Saints Row.
Anyway,
all right. So instead of talking about games we're going to play 2 years in the future. Did you play anything currently?
No, just more Fashion Dreamer. You know me.
Okay. I did end up playing a game. It's not a new game, which is why it's not on here. The Gardens Between. Okay. Because it was available on PlayStation Extra.
Yes.
And it's a puzzle game.
Yes.
And it's a time-based puzzle game where you move forwards and backwards in order to activate certain switches. And you have 2 characters. One of them holds the object, the other activates the switches. So it's a good little puzzle game. Okay. Took me an hour to beat the game, an hour and a half to platinum it. So really quick, really short. But overall, I kind of did enjoy the story. It's about 2 neighbors who, with one of them moving away, and you kind of play through their experience of meeting and becoming friends, and then ultimately saying goodbye as one character moves away, and kind of like their last night together underneath their tree fort, as between them is the garden that they share in the gardens
the garden
between.
we should, yes, very exactly, yes.
And yes, the garden is the friendship we made along the way.
Of course it is. Okay, sounds quaint.
Yeah, quick game. If you like puzzles, you like time based, and you got an hour to kill, it's real quick. It's available on PlayStation Extra as part of the new games that roll through.
Okay, cool. All right. With that, let's move into the second half of the show, where we always start with television, and we always start the television section with the sports corner.
Oh wait, no, there's no hockey news. Sorry.
And there's no hockey news. And let's just get this get this over with at the top of the sports corner here. No, we don't know still where Ohtani is going, so don't ask us. All right,
We might know by next week. There are some headlines saying that Ohtani will make a announcement, a decision this week.
Yes,
but it's only Tuesday.
Yeah, the winter meetings are happening right now, so it's still possible that news could come out, but it's not looking likely anytime really soon. It might take a little longer, but yeah, who knows? Moving on, our first actual sports corner story is about college football. Georgia has fallen and chaos ensues.
Number 1 seeded Georgia throughout like at least the last 10 weeks has officially lost a game, lost the SEC championship game.
Yes, so they are out of bowl game contention, which means that the bowl games will be the Sugar Bowl, which will have the number 2 ranked Washington versus the number 3 ranked Texas. The Rose Bowl will have the currently now number 1 ranked Michigan against number 4 ranked Alabama. The Orange Bowl.
Alabama beat Georgia in order to claim that number 4 slot. But
right.
That does mean that Florida State, which did have the number 4 slot, that did go undefeated, that did win the ACC, is not going to compete for the national championship.
No. Instead, they will be at the Orange Bowl, where they will be facing number 6 ranked Georgia.
So I think this was done on purpose to basically, when they play, to squash anyone saying, hey, if we actually did put Florida State in the championship and they went up a team like Georgia, could they have even competed? Because we don't think so. We think Georgia's going to win this game. But to squash all those like naysayers, this is what we're going to do. But then again, it is pretty ridiculous that you had a team in the top 4 go undefeated, win its championship, and then not make it to the college football playoffs. Instead, you have 2 12-1 teams in Texas and Alabama. Being that Texas did win the Big Ten and Alabama did win the SEC. Yes, they won their respective championships, but they did both lose a game.
Yeah.
So
God forbid.
Throw that wrench in there of an undefeated team and a 1-loss team. But Texas did put on a show in its championship, and Alabama did beat the number 1 ranked team. So we're just going to toss it to the side and say, yes, you guys deserve it more than the team that went undefeated the entire season.
Yeah. I don't know. This stuff's always complicated. More complicated than it should be, honestly. But to wrap up the rest of the bowl games, we also have the Peach Bowl, where the number 10 ranked Penn State will face the number 11 ranked Ole Miss, and the Cotton Bowl, which will have number 7 ranked the Ohio State against the number 9 ranked Missouri.
And that concludes your top 10. So what I think is going to happen is that Texas will beat Washington in the Sugar Bowl.
Yep.
Alabama will beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and Texas and Alabama will play for the national championship.
Okay.
The reason I am calling this is not because I'm rooting for Alabama, not because I'm rooting for Arch Manning in Texas, but mainly because this season started, the whole season, 2023 season started with Texas beating Alabama.
Right.
So,
yes.
What better way to end the season than to have them play again for the national championship and see who is indeed the better team after having gone through an entire season? Yes.
Yeah.
Definite revenge game. Yeah. I think that's what they're setting it up for. So come back in the new year to see if I'm right.
All right. Well, looking forward to that. Speaking of looking forward to things, some key college players are looking forward to winning the Heisman Trophy.
And joining the Nissan Heisman house.
Yes, sure. And the finalists have been announced. We have quarterback Jaden Daniels of LSU, Bo Nix from Oregon, Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, and wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. from The Ohio State as your finalists.
One of these players is not like the other.
Yeah, three quarterbacks and a wide receiver here.
Yep. Typically, in the past, this has been a quarterback-dominated award, but we did see Devontae Smith recently win the Heisman before going to the NFL and currently dominating on my fantasy team for the Philadelphia Eagles. Thank you very much. That being said, Marvin Harrison Jr. is obliterating all of his records, so he should get this award.
So there you go.
But as I said, this is usually a quarterback dominated award. So don't be surprised if Michael Penix Jr. wins this thing.
So
he is the odds-on favorite.
Yes, and we will find out the winner on Saturday. So by next week's show, we will know who won.
You'll know who Mr. Heisman is.
Yes. And then speaking of the NFL, the league after the league, the Carolina Panthers are now 1-11. Oof. And have already been eliminated from the playoffs.
Congratulations. Your pick is not to you.
I was gonna say your draft pick is in the mail.
But it's not, because they sold this year's draft pick.
That's right.
Last year to the Bears. So the Bears will get the number 1 draft pick, which they are currently going to be evaluating both their quarterback and head coach, and possibly getting both a new quarterback and head coach come April 2024 for the draft.
Oh, the Fields experiment did not pay off?
It still is not paying off. No.
Good to know.
It continues to not pay off.
Well, there you go. Fascinating what will happen. But yeah, sorry, Panthers, you're out. All right. Then lastly, the NBA, the in-season tournament, has entered its quarterfinals, and the championship of the in-season tournament will be on Saturday. So check that out.
Quarterfinal games continue today with the Lakers versus the Suns and the Bucks versus the Knicks. Meanwhile, the Pacers and the Pelicans have both advanced to the semifinals. The semifinals games will be on Thursday with the championship on Saturday, meaning by the time we podcast next week, we will have the first ever in-season tournament champion.
Yes. So look forward to that. Any other sports that we need to talk about?
Hockey continues to hockey.
It does. It does continue to hockey. That is true.
Yep. And wrestling continues to wrestling with CM Punk returning to the WWE.
We don't need to talk about that. It's like everybody's really mad. What we can talk about, though, is did you watch the Celebrity Jeopardy with WWE superstar Becky Lynch, where she got 2 whole answers right the entire game? 3 rounds,
I did not.
2 answers correct.
Wait, did she buzz in for only 2? Or
no, she tried. She definitely tried. She lost a lot of money. And then only in the 3rd round in Triple Jeopardy did she finally get 2 right. But it wasn't enough to even make a dent in the other 2 scores. So no, she apparently now has the record, I think, is what I had read, for the worst performing Celebrity Jeopardy contestant of all time.
All right, put quotes around celebrity there.
She seems like a very
that
charming person, but she just
that's
can't
because
play
she's the
Jeopardy.
man.
Yeah, apparently that's what she
Yes,
says.
yes, she's the man in her very thick Scottish accent.
Yes, I was fascinated with her accent. I was just like, wow, okay. But yeah,
No,
so
we've been watching Christmas holiday themed shows and movies. In fact, we went back and watched Ted Lasso, the Christmas special.
oh yeah, I bet that's kind of weird now.
Uh, Actually, that single episode still holds up.
Okay,
Yeah, we like that. It does feel like a one-off because it kind of was.
it
But
was.
yeah, if you just want to watch just the Christmas episode, I think it's episode 6 in season 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is there. That's still charming as ever.
Thanks for the hot tip. But let's move on to television
Hey,
news proper.
yeah, because you can watch the Ted Lasso
yes, on Apple
Christmas
TV.
on Apple TV Plus.
But what you might actually be able to see is maybe sometime soon is Ted Lasso up there hanging out on Paramount Mountain with all the rest of those Paramount people? Maybe. Because Apple and Paramount Global have been discussing bundling their streaming services at a discount. The companies have talked about rolling out a combined Paramount Plus and Apple TV Plus, offering what would cost less than subscribing to both services separately. Alternatively, Verizon is also planning to offer the ad-supported versions of Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery's, stupid that I have to say that, Max streaming service for about $10 a month combined instead of about $17 a la carte. And then there's the grocery delivery app Instacart, who's also throwing their hat in the ring, their cart, who said earlier this week that it partnered with NBC Universal's Peacock to provide the streaming service at no cost to all of its subscribers. The talks between Apple and Paramount are in early stages, so it's unclear what shape the bundle could take. This is interesting for me, someone who Paramount is the one that I'm the absolute holdout on. I refuse to jump in on. But if I just got it for free with Apple TV, that'd be kind of a nice bonus.
I mean, it would be nice if, like, say, Amazon, who is trying to offer all streaming streaming apps at one location, would just do this.
But the thing about this is that Apple's never going to make a deal with Amazon. Amazon is their probably number one rival after Microsoft at this point. Like, they don't want to do any business with Amazon.
Right. So why partner with Paramount Global then?
Because Paramount's a small fish in the streaming pond comparatively, and they're also a small fish in that pond. So why not join forces? It's actually
and
a pretty
be
smart,
smaller fish in the small pond.
It's probably a smart decision.
Fishes. Yes.
Fishes.
Pisces. They're Pisces. That's what it is. 2 fish are Pisces.
Yes, I know. I would know. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is an interesting idea, and I'm interested to see what they end up coming up with. Some sort of partnership. I invite it at this point. Why not?
I also invite everyone to start bundling stuff together, and then we create cable again. Streaming. Yeah. Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's just do it.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to our second story, which is, yes, you're probably thinking, didn't we say the SAG-AFTRA news was over? Well, just wait, because a vote for the ratification of their contract still hasn't happened. It would be highly unusual for SAG-AFTRA members to vote against ratifying their deal as of today, but at no tentative TV/theatrical contract agreements have been rejected in the recent history of the union. But still, heated debate on online forums has some members wondering, quote, I have no idea how people are voting or what the split is going to be. That's according to an actor and 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike captain, Kate Bond. Despite the chatter, SAG-AFTRA National Executive Director Duncan Crabtree Ireland, which is a fantastic name, who headed up negotiations for the union, says he is, quote, fairly confident that members will ultimately approve the pact. Continuing the quote, I do believe that our members will see this deal for what it is, which is an extraordinary and groundbreaking deal. Not perfect, no deal ever is, but it really advances our members' interests. Now, you, our intrepid reporter, live on the streets right now, trying to Google if this vote has happened, and what did you find?
There is no word yet, at least on
Okay.
the sites that I'm typically looking at here, saying whether it has passed or ratified or not.
Okay. So we will likely not have news for you on that front until next week's show. But in case anything breaks, we'll fix it. No, we'll maybe address it by the end of the podcast here. So keep your
Yeah.
eyes
So far,
peeled.
all that keeps popping up is people very split, especially on the AI protections
Yeah, I
of whether or
imagine.
not they should vote no because of this specific point in the deal. Now, granted, this is a 3-year deal, so we're going to be back here in 2026.
Right.
So the
We'll
question
see.
is, are these kind of guardrails in place strong enough for 3 years while we identify what AI is over the next couple of years?
Well, I guess we will find out, won't we?
And if we do get news by the time we end this episode,
Yes, we'll
we
flag
will
it out.
I'll flag it in the movie section.
All right, sounds good. But before we get there, we have cancellations and
What am I
renewals.
no longer watching?
Bob Hart's Abishola no more. I'm not saying they broke up. I'm just saying that the 5th season of Bob Hart's Abishola on CBS will be its last. So Bob and Abishola will, go off and have a relationship off camera.
They will continue to heart one another, as
Yes.
I'm sure that will be the ending.
Indeed. Next up, Apple TV Plus has canceled Swagger after 2 seasons.
The quote that I saw was, they couldn't make the layup to a 3rd season.
I get it. So those are the cancellations. We also have some renewals for you this week. Stars has renewed Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, for a 4th season. MGM Plus is bringing back Godfather of Harlem for a 4th season. Paramount Plus is bringing back The Gold for a 2nd season. NBC is bringing back Found. They found a 2nd season of Found.
Yep.
And then
that's the new freshman one. Same with this
yes,
upcoming one.
The Irrational, which will get a 2nd season as well.
Yep.
So there you go. It just read ahead. We now have deaths, which you're probably wondering, am I going to be talking about deaths? Why am I laughing? Well, I'll talk about the sadder one first before the other one. We lost James L. Easton this week, age 88. Businessman Archer, philanthropist, and did I mention Archer? President of the World Archery Federation, the IOC member since 1994, and weirdly enough, developed the first aluminum baseball bats.
Yes, you know all those Easton baseball bats that you see?
Oh, that's that guy.
It's that Easton.
So all of your friends who played softball in college
and Little League.
Yeah.
So when you see and watch Little League Baseball World Series and all those dings coming from
Easton.
James L. Easton, or came from James L. Easton.
Thank you, Easton. Now we move on to somebody we're not going to thank for anything. Henry Kissinger finally died. He was 100 years old. War
Controversial.
Criminal. You know the deal.
Figure.
We don't need to talk about him. Just know that, man, that took a long time.
I know. That's why it just says finally here.
It just says finally. It's very funny. All right, let's move on.
No description, just finally.
Nah, he doesn't deserve it. Moving on to movies. We now start, of course, with the weekend box office numbers. Your number one movie in the world, or in the US at least, right now is Renaissance, a film by Beyonce, which premiered to $21 million in its debut week.
Or 1/4 of Taylor Swift.
Yes, that's true. So comparatively different numbers we're talking about here. However, it's still probably going to do pretty well for itself.
Number 2, you can still run the ads that say number one movie in theaters right now.
You sure can. Number 2, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes made another $14.5 million. That's at a cool 121. That is a success, folks. Number 3, Godzilla Minus One, $11 million in its first week here. I say here because that is, of course, a global release. coinciding with a Japanese release as well, its home territory. So we're finally getting a Godzilla movie day and date with Japan, which is pretty cool. And it's doing pretty well for what it is. Number 4, Trolls Band Together with another $7.6 million. That's at 74. It might limp its way to 100, maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah, well, it is a family movie and it is family holiday season.
Could have a little bit of a rise as long as it keeps in theaters for the rest of December. We'll see.
Well, probably won't be in theaters for the rest of December.
Yes, what they're already cleaning up the receipts for is Wish, which is your number 5 movie this week. Only 7.4 million. That is 41 right now domestic. I don't even know if it makes 50. It's performing even worse than the best, the worst previous Disney animated feature. It's lousy.
Disney is in such a disarray because of Wish that as of like a couple hours ago, they announced that they will be bringing some Pixar films to theaters to kind of help bolster their box office and kind of put 2024 off to the right foot, where they will have Disney Plus streamers exclusive now in theaters, that being Soul in January, Turning Red in February, and then Luca coming in March.
Yeah, that's smart. Those were 3 films that people were actually upset that didn't get theatrical runs. Yeah, I would absolutely see Turning Red in theaters again. The other 2,
again,
not as much. No, I mean like for the first, but you know what I mean. See it again, but this time in a theater.
Yes.
The other 2, I'm fine. But Turning Red, great movie.
Yes,
I'd see that for sure.
Hey, Valentine's Day, February.
Yeah, that would be a cute idea. It's a cute idea. All right. So and also, in case you were wondering how Silent Night, last week's other premiere, did, way down at number 9 with $3 million. Oh well.
Womp womp.
Yep. Let's move on. There is one quantity 1 new release this week. But it's not new if you've already seen it in limited release or if you're a listener from Japan. The Boy and the Heron, which of course is the newest, last Hayao Miyazaki film. He keeps saying that it's his last. Well, this one, maybe he actually means it. Who knows? But yes, it's in getting wider release this week. So if you missed it, didn't see it in limited, you can now see it possibly at your local theater.
I want to say that this is the US dubbed version.
Yes, this is the dub.
Yes.
That makes sense. So if you're looking for the Japanese language track, you won't find it here. All right. Well, with that, let's move on to movie news. And we start with The Search for Kang's director.
You mean,
in all seriousness,
Kang 3, The Search for More Money?
Yeah, exactly. Basically the same thing. But yes, Michael Waldron, who I guess was involved in writing the Loki series. Is that what you mean when he's
showrunner
of Loki? Okay.
Yes.
He has been tapped to write Marvel Studios' Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, the forthcoming Avengers film. Waldron had already been set to write Avengers: Secret Wars, the installment that would follow Kang Dynasty, but now will write both Avengers sequels. However, Destin Daniel Cretton, sorry, we've been having a lot of gnats in the apartment lately, so if I swat, that's what I'm doing. Destin Daniel Cretton will not be directing either film in order to focus on his other Marvel projects, like the TV series Wonder Man, which I've just heard for the first time right now. Avengers: Kang Dynasty is dated to kick off summer on May 1st, 2026, giving Waldron more than enough time to pen a script as the director's search begins again. The movie will precede Avengers: Secret Wars on May 7th, 2027, and that movie will wrap up the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 6.
So yes, 3 years until that movie comes out, meaning he's got about a year to write probably both of these scripts, because just going to assume here, since they did it with Endgame and Infinity War, they're going to shoot these things back to back.
I would imagine. It seems like that scheduling implies that. So, yeah.
Also, this does mean that you will indeed get continuity between both Avengers films and not
Yes.
just have one guy being, okay, how do I make what that guy wrote fit to what I'm currently writing?
Oh,
No,
you mean
same guy.
this? You mean the Star Wars strategy?
Yes, the Star Wars strategy, the
You
mystery box
mean,
strategy.
yeah, you mean the sequel, the sequel trilogy strategy. Yeah, that worked so well for them, didn't it? Anyway, so yes, not that, which is good. Disney is learning from
Yes.
their mistakes. Maybe.
But also, since a lot of people really liked Loki, that fans will
Yeah.
probably be on board with, hey, this Avengers movie's gonna be good.
It's a smart move to get people, see it some way that the fans actually have good karma for right now and get him attached to a project like this.
And also, since he's also been working with a Kang variant in Loki, it stands to reason that he knows how Jonathan Majors acts. He
I was
knows
gonna
how to work with
say,
him.
I was gonna say though, are they all just gonna be variants because we're not sure about that casting anymore?
We'll see. Jonathan Majors is currently in trial, so we'll see how
Yeah,
that
so
plays
we'll see
out
how that
first.
pans out. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to something a little bit more happy. Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Would you like to have a new movie? Well, we knew that Good Burger 2 debuted with a record-breaking premiere on Paramount Plus back in November, landing as the most watched original film on the streaming service since it launched back in March 2021. But it's also the first major film to hail from Kenan Thompson's own production studio, Artists for Artists, which he co-founded with studio executive John Ryan Jr., on the premise that when actors share in greater creative and financial autonomy, good things ensue. AFA is drawing the attention of creatives, including Sydney Sweeney and Emma Roberts, who each have projects in the works with Thompson and Ryan. More Good Burger IP is also on the way, and AFA is also developing a series based on a PlayStation game whose name they can't quite spill yet. Okay, PlayStation expert, guess what that is?
I'm going to assume that it is a comedy, so I'm going to go with Ratchet and Clank
I was
animated
thinking
series.
Ratchet and Clank as well. That's exactly where I was. Yes, we're on the same page there. Anyway, or Sly Cooper.
Ooh, or
Ooh.
Sackboy.
Yeah, I could see.
I can see a family
Sackboy.
adventure Sackboy with Kenan Thompson as the voice.
Sackboy kids show is such a slam dunk. Just do
With
it.
Kenan Thompson as the voice, a bunch of SNL alumni added too.
Yes, do it. Do it, please.
Get Will Forte in there. Yes.
I was gonna say, get Kyle Mooney involved. Anyway, yes. So
Cecily Strong, where are you? I know you need work.
Maybe, I don't know. She was on Broadway for a while.
Yeah.
Thompson says the concept is a simple yet often elusive one in the traditional Hollywood studio structure. Creators that want a greater stake in their work. Hey, round of applause for Kenan, because this sounds great. Like, this sounds like a really good idea, and people are buying into it.
You know, as Kenan Thompson has been in the industry since he was a kid.
Right. He would know.
All the way back in the 90s. I'm sure he has seen his run gamut of lots of producers, and especially how CEOs and companies, production companies, have shifted towards wanting to own the IPs instead of the people who created their works.
Yes.
As we mentioned and keep mentioning in music about artists and songwriters wanting to own their works, here with Artist for Artists, the creators will own the IP, not AFA. They'll just be there to help promote it. They'll be there to help guide them. They'll be there to help finance it. But the IP and all creative endeavors from it, including toys, including merchandise, will belong to those who create that IP.
Yes. It's great. Honestly, I'm looking forward to whatever else this company is working on. It seems pretty cool conceptually. So good for Kenan. Good job paying it forward to new creatives.
Also, snuck in there, more Good Burger IP. Does that mean Good Burger 3 or Good Burger the series?
I would imagine a series for Paramount Plus is probably an easy get right now. Probably with a new generation of Good Burger employees. I could see that. Letting Kenan and Kel move on to other things and let them pass the torch on to a new Good Burger team. I could see that totally working.
I think you mean pass the spatula to a new team.
Anyways, hey, I mean, just get a couple of dudes in there, and dudes could be anybody. I mean, she's a dude, he's a dude, they're all dudes. So, hey. All right, let's move on before I say more things related to Good Burger, a movie, by the way, I have never seen.
You haven't seen the original Good Burger?
No, I've never seen Good Burger. All I know is just cultural osmosis and all the ads and trailers they showed on Nickelodeon in the 90s. I've never actually seen Good Burger.
Oh,
I
it's
didn't
this
even
great,
watch all that.
it's this great little movie about a big, oddly enough, a big mega corporation trying to take down the little burger joint.
Checks out. Checks out. All right, anyway. Let's move on to the thing. We just speed run this show, and it's all to get to this thing, which I'm worried that we might talk about for a while.
Wow, did we really just speed run the show in like an hour?
We
I'm
did.
just realizing that.
It was a pretty speedy show. But it's all to get, all roads lead to movie thoughts, where we have one movie that may or may not be a forthcoming Oscar favorite to discuss.
Well, depends on which side of the season you land on, because we are talking about May, December.
Yes.
This is the new Netflix movie starring Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore. And don't forget, burgeoning star, Riverdale's Reggie, Charles Melton. Don't forget Charles Melton. You're going to hear Charles Melton's name a lot in the next couple of months.
I am going to easily confuse that with Melton the Pokemon.
Oh, that's a Photoshop that somebody needs to do right now.
Charles Melton
in the middle of the little cog.
Yes,
his face right there. Charles Melton. Somebody do that. Somebody who's listening.
If that does not exist already,
please do that and email it to us at mediabopodcast@gmail.com. No, anyways.
But
in all
while you're doing that,
yes,
you should probably watch May, December.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do we want to get into spoilers here, or do we want people to go watch it? Maybe we want people to watch it.
Okay, so you watched this not knowing what it was about.
I knew vaguely what the premise was, but I made it a point not to read any reviews. I didn't know anything about the actual movie itself. So
the only thing that I saw of it was Natalie Portman basically being an actor going through the acting method process. I was like, okay, but why is it called May December though? That seems weird.
That doesn't compute what the actual movie is really about. So,
well, technically it does, but only if you're like 80, apparently.
But anyway,
because that's when that lingo was used.
I guess so. But anyway, if you're not familiar, May December is based loosely on real, true events, and is about the story of the background is at least about the story of a 36-year-old who, we're gonna get into some heavy stuff. Just warning, so just to let people know ahead of time, because that's just what this movie is about. But yes, a 36-year-old who ended up being in a relationship with a 12-year-old boy at a school where they met, and then proceeded to get arrested for such crime, because yes, that is called statutory rape and it is a crime, only to, when released from prison, marry said boy and then have a 23-year relationship with said boy
and have a child,
multiple children
with said
some
boy
that were had during the prison stint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do the math yourself. It's kind of gross, but do the math and you'll figure out why that's kind of messed up. Anyway, so the premise of May December is Natalie Portman plays a actor who is set to portray the woman, and
played by Julianne Moore,
who is played in this film by Julianne Moore, and is essentially shadowing Julianne Moore in her real life to learn how to act as her better. And in doing so, she kind of becomes involved in the drama and day-to-day life of Julianne Moore and Charles Melton's character, the boy in question, who is now her husband of 23 years. Yeah. It's a heavy subject matter. But
it's
But I want to get, before we go any further, I want to get your overall vibe. What did you come out of this film feeling? What was your overall, like, did you have a good time? I mean, considering how much of a good time you can have with a movie that's about this kind of stuff, did you what'd you think about it at the
So
end?
the first thing that I kept wondering and trying to figure out is, why was this thing set in 2015? Why
Yeah.
not set it in present day? Why specifically 2015? And I couldn't get an
Yeah.
answer for that.
Yeah. It's
I think
unclear.
well, actually, I have to do some research. I think it's because the original like story that this is based on happened in the 90s. So 15 years later would
Yeah.
put it around 2015. Well,
Yeah. I
actually, no,
think
18 years later, because there's graduation, would put
yes.
it around
I
2015.
think you're right because of how pivotal to the plot that the kid's graduation from high school is.
Hmm.
That's probably why they did that math.
Right. Which means that you have basically a kid born in 1980
Mm-hmm.
having a kid and that kid graduating high school by the time they reach 36.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have Natalie Portman's character
Mm-hmm.
who plays a 36-year-old
Right.
and essentially born in the same year, and how they have essentially two completely separate and different lives
Right.
because of the choices that were made not by the male character Charles Melton when
Right.
he was
Yes.
12, 17 years old.
Right. Okay. So there's
And
that.
a lot of that goes into with the story of, especially of Charles. What
Yeah.
Charles Melton does is, it feels like at points, have a midlife crisis because of this.
I mean, I'll go into my thoughts about that in a moment, but just to back to my question. So how'd you feel overall about the movie though? Like besides some trying to figure out some context about why it was made the way it was.
Well, I mean, like I said, I went into it just knowing that it was Natalie Portman doing the research role. And
Yeah.
so trying to figure out why this was a research role. And if you go to it blind, that first opening act throws some curveball there. You're like, wait, what's going on? What exactly am I looking at here? What
Yeah.
am I watching? Until it finally becomes clear, because they kind of like flat out say what it is,
Yeah.
both through verbal and then the um, background clip montage of newspaper articles,
Right.
briefly. But once you like understand what is going on between the two characters and why Natalie Portman is here, that's when this movie gets interesting.
Yeah. So overall, how'd you feel by the end?
I mean, I can't really talk about the end because that
Right.
ending scene
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
very pivotal with the build up from the entire movie. So
Right.
I think it does a good job of it throughout, especially building up Natalie Portman's character. She is the star in this thing. She is completely running this thing, running the
Yeah.
show. It is definitely her vehicle, and I can see why all these actions nominations probably will be going her way.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting to see that this is specifically Natalie Portman in this role, because way back in 1999, when she was cast in Star Wars Episode 1 of Phantom Menace, she was at that time supposed to be romantically involved with
Yeah.
a younger child
To
as part of that plot point.
be
And I
fair,
think people
the age
will
gap there was not as dramatic as this, but yes.
no, but I think it's like done on purpose, or at least Natalie Portman
Eh,
probably chose this role on
I
purpose.
think you're reading into that a little too much. What
I
I will
don't
say
know
is
about that.
my read about that is that she's just very good at playing that kind of character because she kind of did already in Black Swan.
I had
Uh,
that moment too, of like, this is just Black Swan all over again, isn't it?
okay, but anyway, so I think this movie is fascinating for a lot of reasons, but the number one reason is the movie I kept thinking about the whole time I was watching this was last year's Oscar discussion movie, which was Tar. Remember when we talked about Tar a year ago around the
Mm-hmm.
same time?
And Kate Blanchett
Yeah. So
was
the two
obsessed.
movies
Yeah.
are not exactly similar, but they do both have in their core an older woman who has made some really awful decisions, and you're trying to kind of like the audience then has to decide how they feel about all of this. The only difference is that this movie approaches it in a completely opposite way that Tar does. The way I described it to Christy when we were talking about the movie after we finished it. In Tar, all the cards are just kind of spread out on the table, And it's up to you to decide how you interpret all of those cards. However, in May, December, the director is taking out each card one by one, showing you, making sure you understand what the card means as it places down on the table. Two very different approaches in film, but as we know, since we have a lot of film studies classes under our belts, that's the nice thing about film. You can do different techniques with how you make a film, how a director's approach is, just determine how the audience approaches it. Whereas Tar is very open to interpretation, May December is very clear about how you should feel about everybody. And I think that works extremely well in this movie. I think the greatest part about this movie is how fascinating the film will guide you to feeling what you need to be feeling in every moment, down to the absolute ridiculous score in this thing. I want to point out specifically how it's used in that scene near the beginning where Julianne Moore's character is opening the fridge, and she notices that there are no, like she says that they need to buy more hot dogs, and then just the score is just Sting right there. It's like doo-doo-doo. It's supposed to be played as this like amazingly intense dramatic moment when it's about hot dogs. And that's the thing that this movie is doing. It takes a very heavy subject matter and plays it straight. Like does not at any point try to tell, like make it lighter or try to lighten that up. Treats it as the heavy subject matter really is, but at the same time is so overly melodramatic about every single thing that it's doing that it's such a fascinating telling of that story. The storytelling method is so unique and so interesting that it elevates what could just been a very sappy, dark story into something that's completely off of the wall and ridiculous, but at the same time, taking every character in the film extremely seriously and making you care what happens to these characters, especially the Charles Melton character. I want to talk about him for a second, because you had said that the breakdown he has in this film struck you as a midlife crisis. That wasn't my read. My read of it was, you know, that story that a lot of people talk about with celebrity, whereas once you become a child star, you kind of have your adulthood kind of ripped from you and your brain develops in a different way. So you kind of stop developing around like 8 to 12, you know, roughly, wherever you kind of have that trauma, it kind of breaks you. That's my read of the Charles Melton performance. I think the way he's performing this character is as if, because of the intense trauma that was afflicted on him at such a young age, whether or not he is, you know, aware that that trauma happened or not, it did so much damage to him that whenever any thought challenges his day-to-day, as soon as he stops just going through the motions of his marriage and life, he retreats back into that child mode. Like he cannot handle that level of emotion because he's never had to before. He was never he basically went from being a child in a family to having basically a surrogate mother date him and treat him like a child throughout the film. There are multiple instances that suggest that she kind of has a mother-son relationship with him as opposed to a husband-wife dynamic, which kind of pushes that point of, no, he's breaking down because he's finally realizing, his brain is finally realizing, with the help of some characters in this film, kind of, that he is being taken advantage of. And that this whole time he's been broken. And he's finally crawling out of that pit. That's, I think, what's happening. That Arrested Development, not the television show, not the band, but that literal Arrested Development has kept him from having this breakthrough that finally occurs during the story of this film.
Yeah, but even when he does try and like have those kind of conversations with his wife at the time, I'll say at the time, with his wife, then she has a breakdown and like makes it all about her, and he has to put his feelings aside once again.
Yeah. It goes to show you what a fantastic job this movie does as a character study for all these characters, because you get his perspective, but yeah, you also get to see Julianne Moore's character, who is so deeply in denial about having performed any wrongdoing. Like, she thinks that she got out of prison and that she was, all right, I'm good. I did my time. I'm going to be with this man I love. Not thinking about the implications of that, not thinking about how that would affect her family, her own children from a previous marriage. Like, the film keeps gathering up all the chess pieces on the board and tells you, like, this is how this person ended up. Kind of weird, huh? This is how this person ended up. Weird vibes are all around, huh? Here's how it affected the people in the community that they're in. Wow, that's pretty weird. It keeps like amounting until by the end of the movie you have all this evidence that actually everybody in this film is kind of fucked up, all because of the decisions that Julianne Moore's character made way back in the 90s. But the craziest wrench in all of that this film throws is Natalie Portman's character. Because at the beginning, you want so badly to believe that she is just this normal person entering the story from an outside perspective that is going to witness all of this crazy chaos happening, right? Wrong, because as the film goes on, you start to actually see what her character really is. And the more you learn about her character, you find out, oh, actually, no. The movie also wants to let me know that she's one of the crazy ones too. All leading up to, like you said, that fantastic ending, which, just like Tar, this is where they are similar. They both end with a scene that recontextualizes everything that happened before. And then you're left at the end of the film wondering, oh shit, so that really was for nothing, wasn't it? This is a fascinating movie, and Christine and I have not been able to stop talking about it since we watched it.
I mean, even before you get to that tumultuous ending, right before it, you get the monologue from
the monologue
Natalie Portman
scene, which is what that is the clip that they will show during when they introduce Natalie Portman's Oscar nomination. Absolutely.
Yes, just that clip.
Yeah, that's all you need. That sells it right there. Apparently she did that take 8 times. Can you believe doing that 8 times?
It's all one take, though. There's no cuts in that.
I mean, they did that sequence 8 times.
Yes, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a weird movie. I don't think it's for everyone, though. I think some people will get turned off by both the subject material and just the overall tone of it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that this movie is like Tar in its capacity. Not the movie I was went in and like compared it to. I went the opposite route as well. This is a very dramatic take on this very important subject. I went the opposite route into someone can easily just make fun of this, and someone like Adam Sandler with That's My Boy.
So this has been brought up in conversation around this movie because people are like, yeah, we used to make fun of this concept. We used to use it as a punchline. Back in the 90s when this was a story, you can actually watch old Norm Macdonald weekend updates from that era. It was a punchline. Everybody thought it was hilarious that, oh yeah, the teenage boy totally scored with the older woman. Hell yeah. It used to be this like weird, like, oh yeah, that's so cool thing, as opposed to what we now understand it as, which is taking advantage of a young boy before he has the capacity to make any decisions.
That is, unless you continuously watch Friends, in which case that is a direct plot point from season 3, where Phoebe's half brother, gets with and marries the teacher, and then asks for Phoebe's help in making kids, and they have triplets because of it.
Yeah. It's a thing that was used as a comedy trope for so long that it does feel weird to actually have see it being taken with the amount of care that it needs to be taken care of. The thing that this movie does, though, that's not like that's interesting, though, is it doesn't, but at the same time, it doesn't weigh you down constantly with thinking about it. It's obviously the centerpiece of why everything's happening. But I think that parallel story that's happening with Natalie Portman is there to remind you to like lighten the load a little bit, and also say like, actually, no, like there are other things in the story that are going on that will also kind of not distract you from the darkness of that, but reinforce it in a way and like remind you like of it. And I think that above all, the one thing that I think is the glue that keeps all of that together is Charles Melton's performance. I think that the movie hinges on him being this good, because if you take that depiction of that character out, if you don't like, if you at any point don't care for that character, the movie doesn't work. You need to care for that character. He's the only redeemable character. Well, maybe not the only, but one of the only redeemable characters in the entire film. You need that to be its centerpiece. You need that to be its emotional heart. There are so many great emotional sequences with his character in this film that I believe are the beating heart of this film. The soul of this film is Charles Melton's performance. And this is why he is the one getting the buzz right now for his performance. It's fantastic.
Riverdale guy?
The Riverdale guy. Yes. He tried to sell you Jingle Jangle, but now he's going to sell you an Oscar performance. No, I honestly, after watching this, I think that he should win everything that anybody can give it to him. It's just amazing. Just the one scene in particular where he's like, where he, as I mentioned before, kind of regresses into like his childhood, where because he finally is able to confront Julianne Moore. Like that scene, he just has this like hunched over, fingers like linked, convincing acting. I have seen people do this kind of anxious body language in real life before. I have never seen it in a movie like this, and he nails it. It's so convincing. He's so convincingly become a shell of an adult, because he's not really an adult. He had his adulthood stolen from him, and that informs his character in the film. It informs how he interacts with his children in a in a couple
because
pivotal
he
moments.
is finally having that reflection of my kids are the age I was when this happened to me, and it's finally hitting him at like a freight train, because he's having to confront it with his own kids.
But even more so than that, they are getting the opportunity that he never got, which was to have a free, independent life. They are graduating, a couple of them, and they are able to now actually, like the butterfly emerging from a cocoon, be free from the darkness and oppression that he experienced and he could never escape. It's also a beautiful moment.
Last thing I will say with this is Julianne Moore's character absolutely nails the little wrenching and digs at her family members.
Yes.
Specifically when the daughter is trying on dresses for first, was it spring or prom?
For prom.
Prom. I think it's prom. And just the little
for graduation. No, it's for graduation. It's what she's wearing underneath the robe.
All right. Yeah, just the little jabs of, wow, I could never pull that off. Like, oh, you're so brave for what you're doing. Just those little screws and jabs. I just felt every single one of those.
Well, that's that character. That's that character through the whole film. It's like she's not aware of how anything she does affects anyone, because she also has trauma, or does she? Depending on who you ask in the film. Maybe no one knows. But yes, she also has trauma that she is now reciprocating on other people. It's a cycle here, and the movie does a good job of letting you know that everybody, except possibly the Charles Melton character, who has had all this drama thrust upon him, everybody else, it all has their own shit because of what she and her family started, essentially. And yeah, it's all interconnected, and it's all fascinating to watch the train wreck. So yeah, I recommend May December, like you said. Not for everybody, just because it deals with some heavy shit. If you're not ready for it, it could catch you off guard. But generally speaking, this is one to watch in award season. I sincerely believe that.
Anyway, okay. Anything else to say about May, December?
No, I think that's the last thing I'll say. Is like, yeah, watch Charles Melton specifically, and watch the film. I think it has a chance to really make a dent in Oscar season. I think that it's a really strong contender.
Anyway. Anyways. So last bit, no news on the SAG-AFTRA. Maybe we'll get stuff next week.
Next week update.
That's next week's episode. But hey, before we get to next week's episode, we actually have another end of the year episode to get to.
Yes, we do. Look forward to on Sunday, as you mentioned, up at 12 p.m. noon Pacific time. We will have video games, our year-end wrap-up for 2023 year in video games. So tune in for that. That'll be a recap of the news and our top 5 favorite games of the year. So check that out. That will be up on your podcast feed, or if you want to watch the video version, up on YouTube. So check that out on our channel. And where do you find all of this, you ask? Well, funny that you should ask. I have that ready for you right now. Let's plug them. We can be found on podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon, wherever you find podcasts. You can download us by searching Media Boat Podcast. You can also find us on our YouTube channel in video form. Search YouTube for Media Boat Podcast, and you can go onto our channel, like, subscribe, and click the bell for when new videos are uploaded. You can find us on the internet on MediaBoatPodcast.com. There you can see an archive of our previous shows, as well as short write-ups for all our year-end wrap-ups as they happen. Right now, the write-up for the music episode is up. You can see a cool graphic thing that I was able to pull off on the website, which I'm very proud of. So check that out and read what we thought about our top 5s. You can also find us on social media platforms like Twitter, formerly known as X, formerly known as Twitter, where we're at MediaBoatCast. Facebook, search MediaBoat Podcast to find us there. Twitch.tv/MediaBoat is where you will find occasionally us playing some video games. And lastly, you can email us your questions, comments, feedback, whatever you want at MediaBoatPodcast@gmail.com, including Charles Melton's face on the Pokemon Meltan. So, all of that and more. We'll be back next week for another proper episode of the Media Boat Podcast, but also on Sunday for that aforementioned wrap-up episode, as well as every Sunday in December for more wrap-up specials. So look forward to all of that in your feeds, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, we'll be back next week with our regular show with more news, more thoughts, and more of us.
All right,
as we get towards the end of 2023 here.
Indeed.
Only, 4 episodes left? No, This is the 4th. 3 more episodes to go till the end of the year.
So look forward to the end. Bye.
All right, bye.